This is the man who was holding the horn at the Redbull Symphonics.
That's right, with Kabza de Small.
With Kabza de Small, and how important it is, for someone to study music.
I believe that if you're practicing the right things every single day for 6 hours, you're going to be good at anything.
Let's talk starting broadly about sonic branding and its importance in advertising and marketing.
Sonic branding is something that most composers or audio engineers or post-production engineers, and one of the DJs that we started to play with a lot was DJ Pepsi, who is Oskido's brother.
Yeah.
And I remember Oscar coming to see us play one night, and I think we both had a little bit too much to drink, and he came up to me and goes, Mamela.
What's your favorite piano song?
Pat. It's Pat on brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man. A pat from the pat is a pat on the brand.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Pat on Brands podcast with me, Pat Mahlangu. I feel like we're doing a lot of firsts lately. This is our first outside podcast, aka or wanting to refer to outside podcast, And you may be wondering where we are. This beautiful setting, there's a grand piano behind us. There's a white man sitting next to me. So literally, Adam, you are
Ngutemba Igamelam.
Anyway. Yeah, you're literally our first white male guest.
Wow, I'm privileged. I come from a privileged background.
Of course. You've been privileged. This is our first outside podcast, like I said earlier on.
Right.
And yeah, for those that are wondering where we are actually at the Howard Audio Studios.
Yeah, Howard Audio Studios. Of course, my name's Adam Howard.
Yeah.
Owner of Howard Audio. We've got 4 studios here in the heart of Bryanston.
Yeah.
Alicia is our piano. That's her name.
Okay.
I call her Alicia Mkizi.
Mkizi. Yeah.
We don't know whether she's black or white, but she sounds beautiful.
I'm sure. And we're going to talk about all of that, in terms of your musical journey. But interesting story, maybe for the benefit of our viewers, how I met you. As I usually do, I do attend a lot of brand events. And we're at Chelsea's headquarters. They were announcing or launching the new rebrand or the new Chelsea, and on the stage comes this man,
this funny musician.
Yeah. I'm like, okay,
speaking in front of 1,000 people.
In front of 1,000 people. It was a big venue, and we were all packed in there, and we were excited, to see the new Chelsea. And on the stage you go, but I'm like, hang on a second. I've seen this face before. 2 weeks ago.
I was one of those 2 white guys playing the horn.
Yeah. I said, this is the man who was holding the horn at the Redbull Symphonics.
That's right, with Kabza de Small.
With Kabza de Small and the Sicho Pite.
Offensive.
Offensive.
Yeah.
Pite, and you're doing your thing. I'm like, that's the man. And obviously, in between the scenes, it means that you were the music director for the Redbull Symphonics with Kabza de Small.
Yeah, so for that I was the musical director. Also playing the trumpet. I do play the trumpet professionally.
Very well.
When I was speaking at Chelsea, it was because I was behind the audio and music of the rebrand of Chelsea. So as I said, I do a lot of stuff. I'm a jack of all trades.
Yeah, but let's save that point. But let's get to know the man that is Adam Howard.
Adam Howard, musician, I think is the most overriding thing. Yeah, musician, that's just morphed into a lot of different spheres. But yeah, we can talk about that later on. But
yes, you studied music in the UK.
That's right. Yes, I'm originally from the UK, and started music when I was 4.
Sure.
Playing the piano, went on to playing the trumpet in local brass bands. There's a big brass band tradition in England.
Oh, is it?
Went through music schools, the top music schools in England and Europe, and went to the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in the Barbican Centre in London and did my music degree. I've got a Bachelor of Music degree.
Sure.
And back then, 30 years ago. 30 years ago, my dream was to play trumpet in a symphony orchestra. That was very much my dream at that point in my life. Even though I was still a composer, and I still made sure I was interested in electronic music, and I always had a computer, and I was always making music, but I didn't think that would become a career. I was very focused on being an orchestral musician, which ultimately brought me to South Africa.
Wow.
After I left music college, I got a job in Germany and toured the world for a year and a half. And then I got a call from a friend who was playing in an orchestra in Pretoria at the State Theatre, the State Theatre Orchestra. I came over in 97 and auditioned and decided that I wanted a bit of a change in my life. And I thought South Africa would be that change for 6 months. I signed a 6-month contract.
Yeah.
And I've stayed here ever since. I've made South Africa my home.
What made you stay?
It sounds like a cliche, doesn't it? But I mean, I fell in love with the country, the people. I think I realized I could have a more varied musical career quite early on here. The level of musicianship I thought is amazing in this country. I could see a future of all places. I mean, I've been to Europe, I've been to Australia. I'd toured the world, but something happened in South Africa, and immediately I was.
Well, I mean, you said 30 years ago. Obviously, it was during the transition time from apartheid to into a democracy. There's a lot of
very exciting
uncertainty, though. In as much as you said you could see a future here, but there was a lot of political.
But remember, we were the Rainbow Nation back then, very much so. There was a very big optimism. Look, I mean, I came 3 years after 94.
In 97.
In 97.
You won the World Cup for the first time, right? The Rugby World Cup.
That was 94, wasn't it? Yeah, I think. Yeah.
97.
95, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Cut. Check the facts. I think I'm right, though. In 95 was the first one.
Yeah.
But when I first came here, I was really thrown into, I would say, what I call, the better side of South Africa, where I was working straight away with different cultures and different musicians. And it's been my career ever since. I mean, you see me on stage with Kabza Small.
Yes.
In a few weeks' time, I'm playing at Afrikaans is Groot, which is a big Afrikaans music festival, I think the Mzansi Youth Choir on that.
Yeah.
Music is an international language, and I find that I could speak that language very easily, very early on in South Africa.
Yeah, speaking of, obviously, language, music being a language, also during that time, Kwaito was at its peak. And
I was at the birth of Kwaito, I always say.
How does that come about? I mean, you were like you say, you were in orchestra and music. You wanted to play in the
Philharmonic Orchestra. Yes, in fact, I was the first trumpet player of the Johannesburg Philharmonic Orchestra for a while.
Interesting.
But what would happen? So we had a job playing operas, ballets, symphony seasons.
So that's like a job.
Yeah, I was on a salary. I was
every day.
It was my first and only time I've been on a salary in my life. So I was employed to play trumpet, and but we had quite a lot of time outside the orchestra to also build other businesses. So we pushed being session musicians. When I say we, myself and Bez Roberts, who you saw blowing the horn with me.
Yeah.
And what we would do after playing an opera, we would take off our dinner coats and we put on our disco clothes, and we'd go to nightclubs and play with DJs to make some extra money.
Yeah.
And one of the DJs that we started to play with a lot was DJ Pepsi, who is Oskido's brother.
Yeah.
And I remember Oscar coming to see us play one night, and I think we both had a little bit too much to drink, and he came up to me and goes, Mamela.
Yeah.
He said, I want you two to play on Brothers of Peace. I went, Brothers of Peace? Who's Brothers of Peace?
Yeah.
So I quickly found out who Brothers of Peace was and Oskido was. He said, I'm going to call you on Monday morning.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I don't think Oscar's going to call me.
Because he was...
like lots of people, you're great. And then on Monday morning, the phone doesn't ring, but Oscar calls me.
So how often does that happen though? All the time, I guess.
Well, like when you do
I'm sure when I approached you, I said, I want to do a podcast. You're like, you're one of those.
No, but Oscar came through. He actually called us and we played on Project A, Zabalaza. And that was the start of us playing with Brothers of Peace full time for 5-6 years, playing with all the artists from Brenda Fassie, Bongo Maffin, Tandiswa, Trompies.
Yeah.
We became family.
Sure.
We traveled the world together. So I always say that I saw Amapiano's, grandfather.
Got you, which is quite... I wanted to take a step back to, the Zabalaza song.
Mm.
I must say, it shaped a lot of my dreams as a young boy. I was telling 1-2 here behind the cameras that, when we were growing up, when Zabalaza was a hit, we'll imagine ourselves, in our cars driving up, coming to Joburg, because it was such a big song and it was very, I'd say, musical. Da, 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 da. So yeah, how did that song come about?
Well, Oscar wrote that song with Bruce Doe, Sabliko, yeah. And early on, I realized that Oscar was getting in real musicians on top of this kwaito music, which is not the norm, actually. I mean, like the bass lines, Jimmy Ngwandi playing bass.
Yeah.
We always had Ray not Ray Peary, George Peary on guitars, and then Oscar would want a two-piece horn section as well. So we'd go out. Look, he didn't need to do that, but I think it showed how musical Oscar's brain was even back then. And now you look at Kabza de Small's music, I mean, like you can see the thread of of that time in kwaito music, all the way through to Black Coffee, and and it was wonderful for Oskido to be in the crowd that evening for the Kabza de Small Symphonic, and of course. I went up to Oskido.
I wish I could before I would have scored myself a ticket.
I even played Zabalaza for a few bars. It's amazing how many people know that song as well. So
yeah. It was a big song. I mean,
and we still work together now on a weekly basis. Oskido. I mean, we do Dolby Atmos mixing, immersive mixing. Asked me to do sessions, so it's been great after 30 years. Just to see the success that not only he's had, but a lot of guys that were around at that time. We were all hustlers, I would say. And we were one big family, which is great.
Amazing. Let's take it back to England, you studying music. And obviously, a lot of times we think, that talent is good enough. If you've got, if you can sing, you've got a voice, you can, open it up and just, sing, it's good. How important it is, for someone to study music. Also, if you're just speaking to a youngster who's watching this right now, who wants to get into the music business, would you recommend that they go to school and actually study music?
Well, there's a few questions there. You say, do you think it's just, how much is talent and how much is, hard work? I would say, and I always say this, and many people don't believe me. We're all musical. We were born musical. It's a human thing.
Yeah.
The thing is that some of us can be more natural. Like sometimes somebody can just pick up a trumpet and they can play, or somebody can pick up a golf club and hit it, and that's called natural ability. And we tend as humans to go towards the things that we get told we're good at, from an early age. Oh, you're so good at music, or you're so good at football.
You must be a soccer player.
So that's encouragement to make you practice what you're good at. And I always say,
never looked at it that way.
No, and I believe that if you're practicing the right things every single day for 6 hours, you're going to be good at anything. I mean, if I gave up my career now and decided to become a professional golfer, I think I could do it if I had the money to do it. To practice something, but practice the right things. If you're practicing the wrong things. So I would say it is a mixture of both, but we're all musical. And that's another thing that we'll be talking about as well. The power of music and sound in brands.
Yeah.
Why? It's just sound, but it's got a bigger, deeper metaphysical connection, I would say.
Sure.
But how important is it to go to school? Well, I was talking to you before off camera.
Yeah.
Some of the most famous musicians that I've worked with, people like Hugh Masekela, Bongeni Ngema, Ray Peary, John Lennon. I've not worked with John Lennon or Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
They don't read or write a note of music. Now people go, what? But they write the world's best songs, Grazing in the Grass.
Yeah.
You don't have to read or be able to write music to be a musician.
Got you.
I mean, anybody can sing, and anybody can think of an idea. Sometimes we have to write those ideas down. And in fact, African music's a very good example. Sometimes you can't actually write down what somebody's playing. It's a feel thing, because a piece of music has a right place where you put, dun, 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 if there is like dun, 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 sometimes you can't write it, you can only feel it. So
sure.
I mean this, some of the best musicians I've ever played with, don't read music, but I've learned so much from those musicians that played in Bongani and Gamers Band, you know?
Yeah. But if you look at, I mean, case in point, if you look at Black Coffee, whom you've worked with, if you look at Zex Montrini, for example, I mean, if you look at where they are today in terms of their careers from a music perspective, what they have in common is that they studied music.
Yeah, they studied, so I mean, they studied jazz, I think, at Natalia University as well. So, look, I mean, if somebody wants to be writing music for commercials and being able to analyze music, and I would say definitely, look, you know, there's many gigs that I do that I don't read music. I'm just feeling stuff. But I mean, I need to give musicians music. So there is a big place to be able to know how to read and write music, and then study, you know, I mean, it isn't just music theory as well. There's a lot of other things to music production, learning, you know, tools, being able to arrange and knowing how to arrange for different arrangements or different, instruments. So I would say it's definitely important, and I think if you're deadly serious, but if you're so talented and you're a great musician and you become your own artist and you don't need to follow any rules or then maybe you don't need to go to school. But I would highly recommend it if you're going to be working at a high level of music production and yeah.
Let's go back to the Red Bull Symphonics, right? I mean, you were a music director there. Outside of just playing the horn on stage, you actually sort of curated the show. Is that the right word?
I didn't curate the show. So, look, I mean, this is branded content. I mean, Red Bull Symphonic, I mean, you know, as a brand, a brander, is that a word? Or a brand, you know, somebody that's, into marketing and brand. And, you know, of course, it's Red Bull doing what they do.
It's their property.
It's, you know, it's bringing people from different worlds together, you know, in something that's never been done or seen before, you know, something that's so crazy, you know. So Kabza Small, a Fancy Pitsy from the orchestral world and the Amapiano world, how could they come together? So I would say the creative direction was very much Red Bull and Kabza and a Fancy curating what would be played, you know? And then there's a whole thing about how it lives on stage and how it's going to sound on stage. Oh, there's an orchestra. Oh, well, we need arrangements for the orchestra.
Sure.
We need the backtracks to be prepared. I mean, that was a 3-month project.
Sure.
To see what Fancy and Kabza wanted sonically. We had lots of African elements in that orchestra as well. So it wasn't a traditional symphony orchestra. We had a kora player. We had an indigenous African percussion player. And we had a rhythm section there as well and percussion. So there was a lot of elements that needed to be brought together for that week of rehearsals. So everything works in that.
So the rehearsals were only for 1 week?
Yeah, pretty much like 4 or 5 days, yeah. And then we go on and we do the 2 gigs. So you got a lot of people involved to bring that together. So, I mean, I played a small part, but I was the musical director. And then you obviously saw me blowing my horn as well. So
somehow you were the stars of the show for a few.
It seemed that way.
It's because, I mean,
we were trending on TikTok.
Yeah, so I watched it on YouTube, you know, and I looked at the comments, and it was just those 2 white guys, you know. And obviously, understandably so, it takes a team to put something like that together. But somehow, have you ever received such, I'd say, for lack of a better word, shine? Because we've done a lot of, I'd say, work with other artists and maybe much bigger.
Yeah.
But this time around, you somewhat.
Yeah, look, I mean, I suppose I've always.
Does it ever happen?
Like playing with Brothers of Peace all back then, and where we would be going, and you know, I mean, every single concert, you know, we would be the only white people around, but people loved that, you know, because you know they could tell that we're part of the family, you know, and it wasn't only that though. I mean, it's like the parties afterwards, like going out into into locations and staying out until 3 o'clock in the morning and experiencing a side of South Africa that I don't think many people get to see. So and then I played with the Joy Celebration as well. So. But I would say working with Kabza Small and just seeing his following, and just now we've got social media now. Thank God there was no social media back in the days of POP.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've seen anything quite like it actually. Yeah, you're right.
Interesting. Did you know much about, I'd say, because actually as I was watching you on stage and I was seeing all, I'd say the white, I'd say members of the orchestra, right? I was thinking to myself, if what their thoughts were or the perception was of the amapiano genre before being part of that orchestra, did you think amapiano was big? Or
no.
Did you, how can I put it? Feel that it's a big enough genre, it's got a huge following, and it's musical? For some people, they say it's not music.
Well, you know what? I mean, I always say that's to people that don't care to know about other genres. So I mean, there's probably a big demographic in this country that wouldn't even choose to listen to Kabza. I'm a piano music or Gom.
Gom, yeah.
I can't even say the name. I can't even say the name right.
Yeah.
So, but being a musician, I mean, and being a musician that composes music for brands that dictate, they might want a string quartet or they might want amapiano music because that's the music of now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not that I need to, but I listen to all genres of music. I always have.
Sure.
People always say, "Oh, what's your favorite genre of music?" And I say, "Well, that's impossible," you know. So I've.
But I can ask you, what's your favorite amapiano song?
Kosela, Amazwe, or Emplambini.
Okay.
I think Emplambini is probably the my favorite. But
yeah.
So I do know the genre very much so. And I get asked to play on different sessions.
Yeah.
But when I got briefed, I knew immediately when I heard Kabza de Small's songs that this is going to work amazingly for an orchestra because they're very musical. I mean, if we analyze the music, if I analyze the chords, beautiful. I mean, you can see he's got a jazz training, and he has.
Which I didn't know that.
Yeah. He studied jazz. In fact, he was playing keys, and he's got the very lyrical way of writing his music. It's very spiritual.
It is
very spiritual.
Yeah.
And I've got to know the lyrics a little bit. I mean, I got to, to know what people don't even know what these songs are, talking about. They're going, just like, we're in the club, popping bottles, and, they don't know what Kosela means, They are protected and beautiful, spiritual, uplifting.
I mean, the melodies, everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, the youth wants to be Maphorisa and Kabza de Small, and I think that's a great, a great thing to look up to. So it's a very musical genre. I love amapiano.
Great.
And South Africa loves amapiano, and
the world loves amapiano.
Hey, they can take it. They can take it. And license it from us.
Great stuff. I mean, back to South Sea, that's the reason why I wanted to have a chat with you. Obviously, now we're talking about other things, but I've always watched ads. Obviously, I'm a student of the industry and I've read about sonic branding, but I never got to meet anyone who does sonic branding, you know? And when I met you, I was like, I gotta have him on the podcast. He has to tell me about, this part of the industry, because, the marketing industry is so broad. And now that I think about it, actually, I've never, there's a few ads that I've watched on TV that didn't have a sound element. And behind it, there's someone like you, who makes those kinds of things happen. Let's talk starting broadly about sonic branding and its importance in advertising and marketing.
Yeah. So at Howard Audio, we do many things. It's just not sonic branding. I mean, there's a multitude of audio
events
and music and events as well. Yeah. But primarily we write original music for TV, radio commercials, for brands. We final mix those projects as well. So sometimes maybe we haven't written the music, but we get music from a composer, sound effects, voiceover, package it, mix it so it can live on TV. And then as you said, then there's sonic branding. So what is the difference between sonic branding and being a music composer? Isn't it the same thing? Well, sonic branding is something that most composers or audio engineers or post-production engineers will at sometimes in the career be asked to do. But I would say that I've specialized in audio branding. And let me just talk about what an audio brand is. Well, companies have logos, for example. McDonald's has got the golden arches,
Yeah.
call it. But there's also an audio brand to that. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bum.
I'm loving it.
So that's called an audio logo, or a sonic branding, or a mnemonic, one of those strange English words that starts with an M, M-O-N. Some people call it mnemonic, but it's mnemonic. It's from the Greek word mnemonikos, which is to remember. So in essence, what an audio logo or sonic branding does, it reminds a consumer of a brand through audio.
Sure.
So you can close your eyes and I can go, bum, 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 bum. That's the Intel.
Yeah.
Let's think of some local ones. Bum, 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 bum. That's MTN.
Oh, yes.
You've got an uncle in the furniture business.
Joshua Dog.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
BMW. It's just, I mean, so we can now go back and...
But also, one would be sitting and listening to that audio, like you just said it now, and think, that's too easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
You just come up with 5 notes.
Yeah, like...
Yeah.
But, I mean, I grew I remember saying to my colleague was there, like, such a profound respect, for people like you. Because you took, when you were on that Soul C stage, you took us through where it all started and how you ended up having that sound.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of thinking. But when they hear it, it plays for like, 3 seconds?
Well, I mean, a good analogy is that Nike logo.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a swoosh, isn't it?
Yeah.
But come on, I mean, we can analyze that swoosh now as well, I mean, what does it mean? How do you conceive a logo for, McDonald's, the 2, arches?
Yeah.
It's, been a lot of thought, a lot of color branding, a lot of thought about what does it make somebody feel like when you see that logo, And I mean, a good case for another audio branding logo I did for console glass.
Yeah.
It was one note. It's just one note. It's like right now I would say the most recognizable sound in the world is a WhatsApp ping. It's a C. It's a C. It's like 5. It's that's WhatsApp. That's WhatsApp. Like ping. It's actually a xylophone playing a top C.
Wow.
Like TikTok. Those little.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of analysis and thought goes into something before we come up with that. For example, console was a 3-week process to get to that one note.
Sure, it's just one note.
So it isn't like, okay, we want a mnemonic, cool. So I need to get inside the DNA of the brand. It's the most important thing apart from the visual logo for the brand is the audio logo. I always say if a brand doesn't have a mnemonic, I always say why? Because audio is one of the most powerful ways to connect a consumer with a brand.
Absolutely.
But for example, for console, I start to think about, well, what is the brand? Well, of course, it's glass, isn't it? It's glass. It's clear.
Yeah.
It's trustworthy. It's safe.
Yeah.
It needs to be clean and clear.
But also it's fragile.
So I thought, well, why don't I go to the source? Why don't I go to Woodmead and go to the store?
Yeah.
And I came back with a car full of glass products, from little glasses to big bowls to crazy. I mean, like glass is a musical instrument. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And it reverberates beautifully. That's why crystal glass is that beautiful thing that can last 10 seconds,
Sure.
They even have glass blowers, and I mean glass choirs in Austria, I found out.
Sure.
So, of course, that was my initial inspiration. Wait on. Imagine if we could make a logo out of the actual product itself, and it's been tried, like time before. I mean, so we came into the studio. We filled things up with different bits of water to get scales. Boom, 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 boom. And then I used other things of inspiration as well to try and come up with a thread. I use musical cryptography a lot, which is if you could spell out a company's name on the keyboard, on the musical keyboard. So if you were called ABC Productions, we could go ABC, And that could be bum, bum, bum. That could be your logo. So what did console spit out? Well, there's a way that we can, because we only go up to G on a keyboard. So A to G and then H equals A. So then I found a little thing and it sounded pretty cool. But we found that it was too many notes. It was like, it was a little bit too hectic, you know?
Sure.
So we stripped it down, and then it's one note, but we multed about 5 different products. I put a little bit of sound design around it, and it's a very clear zoom console. Because a mnemonic is only 3 seconds is a long one, you know? Bum, 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 bum. That's about 3 seconds, you know?
Sure.
Gone. That's, 2 seconds. So that's how we came up with the console. Very briefly with cell C.
Yeah.
I tried the same thing. C equals C, E equals E, L equaled E. So cell C is bum, 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 bum. They are my first hints about what a melody could be for a mnemonic.
Sure.
If it is a melody, you can have sound design mnemonics, you know? I think before the BMW latest logo, it was like the gong, remember? Gong, gong.
Yeah.
That's all it was. I think theatre's a heartbeat. Boom, boom, you know? Why is it a heartbeat? I mean, it's passion. It's not thrill. It's the, I mean, the heartbeat is one of the most human connections, the most human sounds. So, and you can dissect every single, I mean, bum, 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 bum. Why is it dun, 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 dun? Well, that's a perfect fourth. Bum, bum, 1, 2, 3, 4. Dun, bum, perfect fifth. So is the composer trying to hint at this is a perfect logo? It's balanced. It's a perfect fourth. It sounds open. Also, the language that we use on the keyboard as well, on the piano, as composers, we can give, I can make you feel scared. I can make you feel happy. I can make you feel sad just by playing music.
Yeah.
And you need to condense that in an audio brand. So I would say, to finish off, sonic branding is finding the DNA of that brand to make it resonate for that brand. Is it a premium sound? Is it a fun sound? Ba ba bum bum bum.
Oh,
You got a big smile on your face when you do that,
Yeah.
McDonald's is about selling happiness. It's about selling, everyone goes in, so people connect to the brands, as you're growing up, you go to birthday parties, and I don't eat McDonald's, by the way.
Yeah. But they do good sonic branding.
But as a brand, you can't help so I think you need to, so it's connecting with the brand and making sure that it resonates and it cuts through as well. So, a sonic logo, a sonic brand needs time to mature as well. And that's why you'll find, why hasn't MTN not changed its audio logo for 25 years?
Sure.
There's a reason behind it.
Gotcha.
And why hasn't McDonald's done that?
Actually, you're right. I mean, and I remember after, that South Sea event, driving home, it was the only thing that was playing in my head.
Because they played it 1,000 times that day.
And I guess over time, repetition, it sticks.
Yeah, exactly. And as I said, it takes time, for that. But once it does, then it becomes one of the company's biggest assets. I do believe that Intel is still the audio logo. So.
I mean, I can also think about the Netflix one.
Yeah, exactly. Vroom, boom.
Yeah, it's also like shakes you up.
Yeah, it's like ready for the next film. And again, that's. How to get that. I mean, even frequency will come into play, and what it makes people feel like as well.
Sure,
it's all about connecting.
But then, how do you get into sonic branding? And I mean, like, it took me. I've been on this sort of journey with brands for now 12 years and everything about it, but. I only came. I mean, I came into contact with you more recently, and I recently learned about. I must thank CellC though, even though they're not sponsoring this episode, but I must thank them for that experience. And I think for you as well, it was the first time a CEO or someone at these levels sort of invited you to come actually share and let people know the thinking behind the thinking that makes the things.
Well, that shows you the importance of what. Music or a mnemonic or audio branding can be for a company.
Yeah.
and George.
Yes.
Actually, I forget his name now.
George Mendes.
George Mendes. So George Mendes, actually, CEO. I mean, there's a lot of people underneath him that can make these decisions, or he can, filter the decisions down.
Yeah.
But he was in the studio actually approving. So, I mean, we have an approval stage, So
Sure.
I get briefed by the agency, Joe Public in this case. It was a very strong brief. It doesn't like, we want a jingle. In fact, some people call them jingles, but we'll go back to that in a minute.
Yeah.
We want a mnemonic. Okay, cool. They come in and they brief me on the rebranding of the company as a whole. So, storyboards, brand DNA, 7 pillars, and
all
colors.
this.
What is the consumer? What is the brand? Then they play me some music references and get it to a stage where then it gets approved, by the agency and creative director, and then maybe Pepe Murray, and then maybe
the big fish at the agency.
But then there's more.
Yeah,
it goes on to Cell C, and then because this is a very important part of Cell C's rebranding. So we had the Exco in here. And so I presented, and obviously it was a success because then George says, look, we're rebranding, the launch rebrand is in 4 weeks' time. I'd love you to come down and explain to everybody what you just explained about how you came up with, because it wasn't just a mnemonic. I also composed a 3-minute piece of music that you heard as well. That's going to be used on a lot of brand communication, retail adverts and stuff like that. It's the sound of Cell C. And that song is basically a big sort of build up to the mnemonic at the end, and we hear the mnemonic threaded through the music. So, yes, I mean, that's how important it was for Cell C.
Yeah.
How did I get into sonic branding? Well, I think it's a natural progression for any music composer for TV commercials, and because I'm also on the mixing side as well. So the whole audio music side of things, as I built up my company over 30 years, it becomes a natural progression into that space. And also, again, I felt that I had first of all, a passion. I mean, just looking back throughout all my life, I mean, I was always listening to jingles when I was 4 or 5, I mean, I used to love the Cadbury's jingles, or, sunlight and water.
Yeah.
Goes a long way.
Yeah.
You get an uncle in it, tiger wheel and tire, all these jingles, as they were called back in the 80s. And there was a big movement in the 80s as well, where some commercials were just like a 30-second song,
Sure.
And that still does happen. Maybe it's fallen out of fashion a little bit, but there's still a big space for the right song to work, to live. I always
isn't it that perhaps influenced by the technology in use? I mean, back then TV was a big thing, and I mean radio as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now people watch on demand content.
Yeah. But there's still, even back in those days where you would need some music for a jingle or a commercial, you'd have to go into a studio and record it. Now we've got computers, but there's still very much now, there'll be an advert that's Kabza the Small license, and that brand works for Redbull, for example, I've just composed a piece of music now, which is a string quartet. It's very classical because this brand actually, for this TV commercial, it was perfect, An amapiano track would be completely wrong, As a string quartet would be wrong for a Redbull mnemonic, you know what I mean? So it was a natural progression over the years to fall into a space of sonic branding, and for clients then to to know where to come if they need, somebody to oversee the sonic branding of a company.
But do you think in a South African context, marketers or brand builders do actually get the importance of sonic branding in your view?
Yeah, very much so. And in advertising.
And how do you compare to the rest of the world?
I always say, and I mean this, because whenever I go overseas, I always spend a lot of time watching commercials. I love watching commercials.
Yeah.
And I would say our advertising is some of the best in the world. If you look at our top brands like Chicken Licken, Nedbank, Alan Gray's, the top marketers, usually chicken.
Interesting, right?
The chicken.
I mean,
Chicken wars, don't we?
Yeah.
But and you can tell by the awards that are won by some of our top marketing, campaigns.
Absolutely.
I think if you just look at all the top brands, you'll see the importance of original music, music licensing, which is already is teaming like maybe an already existing music track, that's been composed and licensing that for that campaign. It's and that's why brands will spend millions of rands licensing a famous track, for example.
Sure.
Because it's like it's the biggest track out at the moment, and it sort of fits with the zeitgeist, as
Got you.
Yeah, and the power of audio and music is very important in connecting consumers to brands.
Yeah. So I mean, you've worked with a washing powder, chicken, a telco, financial services.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the brands, or campaigns that you've worked on? It's like, what, there, I nailed it.
Yeah. Look, I mean,
or that you're most sort of proud of.
Look, I mean, I think I mean this where I say I genuinely love every single day being a musician. Every day is different. And I just lost my train of thought there a little bit. Let me have a quick glass of water.
What's your...
Sorry. So yeah, you were saying, sorry, the question was?
So my question was, like, of all the campaigns you've worked on, you gotta have some favorites.
Yeah, so what I genuinely feel that every day that I'm in the studio working, it's really is a dream come true, and I'm very grateful of every bit of work that comes through here.
Yeah.
I suppose, I mean, are there some projects that mean more, or I put my heart and soul into everything, even if that's I mean, I don't want to name any brands now, but I mean, even if it's just a very simple retail ad, maybe the client's got no money and they want to use some library music, I still make sure it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I suppose the win-win situation is when you're composing music for a brand and it actually isn't just about selling something, it's actually changing lives in a way. And we say that we don't change lives in advertising, but I actually say no, we do. No, we do.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful project that I've just done for PPS Insurance, which is called Finding the Forgotten Graduate.
I remember that one. That goes back to the first black graduates.
Yeah, because I mean the whole narrative.
What's his name? I forgot his name.
William Sogo.
Yes.
I'm glad I remembered that. Yeah. And basically, it was a storytelling campaign of of finding those first black graduates that were written out of the history books and finding just a little bit about their story. Like it was like a historical project.
Yeah.
And then telling those stories beautifully written, and then set to music and with sound design. Okay, we're selling PPS Insurance.
Yeah.
So why go to that length? It's to connect. It's to connect people. And in fact, why were they doing good? Well, because now posthumously, every year they make sure that somebody gets a degree awarded in William Sogo's name.
Sure.
So that really meant something, on a personal level for me as well. I've just done a campaign now that's just gone live for Amnesty International, highlighting teen pregnancy and how out of control it is, and going into telling these stories told by a poet, Lebo Machile, I've been working with, and I'm composing music around that. So they're not selling anything there. That we're doing,
awareness work.
We're trying to do great pieces of art that can resonate with somebody, and to try and make a difference there as well.
Yeah.
If it wins some awards, brilliant.
Why not?
But those are the projects that
But what about that Alan Gray one? Because for me, I think it really, I mean, for many years, for 5 years,
that
an ad.
Yeah, so there's another one now that actually also features a trumpet, but the other one is that Father show where it's I think the story of Black Tax, and
Jeez.
you know, I think there was a beautiful twist there where he thought he was taking all his money, but he actually saved it and put it in an Alan Gray investment account, and over time
It grew.
and
Compound interest is real.
so that whole concept was, you know, I mean, like the music's like a clock.
Sure.
Mm. So that's time passing, you know.
Hmm.
So I composed that music. We did the final mix, and I also was the trumpet player. In fact, it was a flugelhorn, Hugh Masekela's instrument. You got a trumpet, and then you got a bigger looking trumpet a little bit. It's a more softer sounding instrument called the flugelhorn. So that was very special because, you know what, as I was getting into the industry and just seeing all the big commercials, maybe one day I might be able to compose a Alan Gray commercial. I mean, that was my. I want to write an Alan Gray commercial one year, and it eventually came off one year, and I was commissioned to write it, and so that was a beautiful project as well, and I think it resonated with South Africa as well.
No, it was a very beautiful piece of work.
Yeah,
MTN.
Marvin. So there was an MTN commercial a few years ago that used the Commodore's night shift. Gonna dance the night shift on the night shift. Actually, the wrong lyrics there. So see, every single job's different. So I do write original music, but also, for example, MTN wanted to license the night shift because I think the data deal at the time was a night shift deal. Or something.
It's cheaper to make calls at night.
I forgot we're setting something. They came. You can then license that track. It'll be millions of rands, but then there's also you need to license the original recording. So if a brand or an advertiser's got the money, then you can spend millions and millions buying both the song, and then also the master recording. So then you can. So when you hear an original piece, an already existing piece, that's what's happened. They've had to license it for a lot of money for a year.
Interesting. We're talking about licenses and the master. I'm not sure if you've been following the conversations online, especially with the young ones online on Twitter and TikTok.
Yep.
And they talk about the master. Let's hear it from the OG.
Well, not very simple. I mean, it's just a legal thing. So I mean, I think I know the conversation.
Oh wait. Actually,
he says like a Mac G knows. You're that.
No, here's an interesting one. Because we are recording this podcast in your house, in your studio, who owns the master?
I own the master. It's my created in there.
We use electricity.
In fact, no, I think you own the master. Whoever paid for the recording. I mean, that's a very good analogy, actually. So,
because the conversation was that, sorry, Adam, to
yeah.
Because the conversation was that if you're using my electricity, you're drinking my water, I'm in my space. Therefore, I own the recording.
Well, yeah. So there's two sides to any song. You've got the publishing.
Yeah.
So that's the songwriters. So I can come up with a song like here we are at Howard Audio.
Yeah.
And then so that's my idea, and we get a band, and we've composed.
Oh, you also have your own Sonic brand.
Sorry, no. So I'm just using a.
Yeah, I just came up with it now. Okay. It sounded cool.
I think let me go back to the beginning. Okay, so a bit clear. Yeah. So for example, if let's say Paul McCartney writes a song, with John Lennon, somebody writes the lyrics, or like they're working together, or is it just one person? It's just Paul McCartney, or who wrote the song together?
Yeah.
So did Ringo come up with any ideas? So these three people are then the songwriters. Okay. But where's the song? Well, it's in our heads. No, but we need to record the song, don't we? So then you would then usually a record label will then sign an artist, and the record label then pays for Abbey Road, for the studio, for the mixing. So there's the recording and the songwriting. So even when the album has been pressed, there's 50% goes to the record label and 50% goes to, I'm just using like figures.
Yeah.
So if you're the musician and you own a studio and you record it yourself, then you own the recording as well. So there's two sides. The gray area where it can do with musicians and singers sometimes is where you're in a studio and someone's written a song, and then you come up with, like a melody that goes, yeah, here we are, South Africa. Yes, here we are. and that's the hook of the song, you know, and you just came up with it, but you've not
In
signed
the
any.
spur of the moment.
Yeah, the spur of the moment, you know, but you're being paid as a performer. There's many times where as a session musician, I'll come up with ideas, but I'm paid as a session musician only in certain times, maybe, you know, you need to sign a contract if you feel that you own any part of the song. So if any artist hasn't done that, then, you know what I mean? It's, you know, you should have signed a contract before. If you're not happy, you can't wait for a song to, you know, be out there. And then, so I say musicians need to know the business side of the industry a little bit more to know what is yours and what isn't. But so in the case of Night Shift, they couldn't afford the master recording. But what you can do is then buy the publishing. So Sony Music Publishing owns the publishing for Night Shift, for example. So you license that, and then you can then come to me and we can re-record the song.
Oh,
because
so you're not using the original.
There's some times where you can't sound like the original. Sometimes you can do. In this case, I could sound like the original.
Yeah.
So I can make it sound like the original. But then also there was a little bit in that where they wanted to have a bit of a 16-bar dance bit, which wasn't in the older recording.
Yeah.
So I put some beats down and made it more sort of hip-hoppy.
Yeah.
So that gives you the license then to also change the lyrics if you want to. So there's different ways of how music is used in brands. So on that one, for the Night Shift, which again won lots of awards, and I think it became a sort of catchphrase as well, like Marvin, you know, and people just knew, oh, do you see that
Night Shift
advert? Yeah, do you see Night Shift?
Yeah.
So I think that's where marketers and brands really get to the hearts and minds of a population or a country, is when they really tick all the boxes, like the right music, the right performers, the right catchphrase. I mean, MTN have come up with so many catchphrases. Ayoba, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they've been good at it.
Yeah.
So earlier on, I mean, before we started recording, you also spoke about sort of licensing. I mean, a brand comes to you and says, we want to have a sonic brand, and you say, okay, cool, I'll do something. You pay me. This is how much it's gonna cost you. You produce the work, but then you license the work. You don't say, "Oh, here's the piece of work that you guys commissioned to me. Off you go. It's done."
In a nutshell, I see myself as a musician that has ideas, and my ideas are mine, and it's my intellectual property. I think I'm quite good at it, and I think other companies think that, so they will come to me and say, we want you to come up with a really good idea. How much will it cost you to produce that idea? And then I license that idea to them. That's the most easiest way of thinking about it.
Sure.
Because it's music, you know, it's music for a brand that, you know, that is selling something. And
it's going to make money.
A composer always retains his intellectual property unless you're bought out. And that is a negotiation where then a brand might say, because usually licenses are in a year or 2 years. Yeah, usually a year. And then after a year, if they want to then flight that commercial again, they need to relicense, not only me though, it's other actors as well, usage rights, singers. And sometimes brands will then negotiate a buyout where they say, listen, we want to buy this out so we don't have to relicense it. You know, it's
wonderful ownership.
It's like now big bands, you know, like Pink Floyd or I'm sure Jay-Z will be soon, where they sell their catalog. So why do they do that? Well, you know, when you're 50, 60, I mean, after you die, your your intellectual property is your family's estate for 75 years after your death. Even after 75 years. After 75 years, then it goes into public domain. Which means then anybody can record it. Nobody owns it. Yeah. Becomes part of, the public domain.
Interesting. So have you ever had like instances where a brand, you say, okay, guys, you want the full ownership of the song? Great. This is how much it'll cost you. And they turn around and say, what is what is Adam smoking? You must be with that.
No, I mean like
3 second sounds for that much.
they know when they come for a buyout, they know, because as a composer, as a composer, we make money on royalties as well. It's called residual income. It's called passive income, and it's
which is the dream for many people.
Yeah, and it's a very important part of how, because as composers, that's how royalties are collected.
Yeah.
So I always think about what could my music collect over 10 years, and we usually start round about there.
Yeah.
And brands know that as well. And it becomes a
no-brainer.
But that's when you see Bob Dylan selling his catalog for 500 million. Why would somebody buy that catalog for 500 million? Well, if you think that his catalog, every year probably earns about 30 to 40 million rand. I'm talking dollars now. Sorry.
Yeah.
30, 40 million dollars in an advert uses that. After 10 years, that investment is paying off 30, 40, and it's actually a good investment.
It is actually.
And Bob Dylan's thinking, well, I'm going to be dead in 10 years' time anyway. So
I think there is a trend though now where private equity firms are actually buying catalogs.
Yeah, Pink Floyd's also doing that right now.
Yeah.
So when you got a catalog like that, like if you think about all the different films where it gets used and placements and public performances and stuff like that. So yeah, you write a song in a day and it can make you money for 60 years' time. I think it's a beautiful dream for any musician.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Adam, we're sort of running out of time here.
Sure.
It flew by, eh? But I must ask you. You worked with the late legendary Hugh Masekela, and actually, at the start of this year, I was reading his biography, and he had a colorful life. He lived life to the fullest.
Yeah.
I can't help but ask, like, how is it like working with Hugh?
Yeah, it's amazing. I've been working with him. Well, I started working with him, I think in the early 2000s, on different gigs here and there. I think one of the biggest moments, even though, there's been many stories, one of the biggest moments I think was playing Grazing in the Grass with him at the World Cup kickoff concert, 2010, in front of 80,000 people at Orlando Stadium, and where we played with Lyra, Alicia Keys, Black Eyed Peas, John Legend, Shakira, Hugh Masekela.
Waka Waka.
Waka Waka. I even played Waka Waka with her.
Yeah.
But I think there was one moment there where I was actually playing next to it's actually on YouTube as well. I'm actually playing.
Yeah.
I'd read his book already,
Yeah.
I actually grew up knowing who Hugh Masekela was in England. You remember, he's that South African guy who comes over, he plays with the London Symphony Orchestra at the Royal Albert Hall. He played on Simply Red's album. He was like a guest artist on a lot of. I went, Hugh Masekela.
Yeah.
And then when I came to South Africa, I got to know him as a friend. But I think that was one of the biggest moments where I'm thinking, I'm standing next to Hugh Masekela playing Grazing in the Grass.
Sure.
This is amazing.
Yeah, goosebumps material.
But we've traveled around the world. I remember once going with SA Tourism to Miami Dance Festival with Masters at Work, and Frankie Knuckles was there, and it was we took Mafikozolo, Tanis Mazwai, Trumpets, Brothers of Peace, and
The gentleman that you're playing with, now that you mentioned Mafikozolo, wasn't he the one that played with Mafikozolo?
Yeah.
I now remember.
Sorry, so you're saying Hugh?
Oh, the gentleman that you're playing with at the Kabza.
Yeah, he plays with Mafikozolo.
Yes.
I do as well.
Now it's 6.
I'm playing with him this weekend, actually, in Bloemfontein. I played at the George House last week with him.
Amazing, yeah.
So, we were in Miami together, and I remember myself, Bez, and Hugh Masekela, and Tandiswa needed to get back to Cape Town to do the Cape Town International Jazz Festival. And for some reason, we missed our flight. And
it must have been the parties in Miami.
Well, we would he said, what? I said, no, you've dismissed your flight, and there was a mess up. And,
yeah.
And so Hugh Masekela said, let's go and grab a quick drink.
Yeah.
So we had a coffee, and he took out his phone and he said, Philip, it's you, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
10 minutes later, we had business class flights rerouted via London. Philip Becker, I'll always remember his surname, was the CEO of South African Airways, Northern America. He called him And it was all problem. He didn't even flinch. Like, I'm thinking, no, we're gonna miss the down. He said, I've sorted it out. And we flew business class all the way back. So I had 18 hours to talk to Hugh properly, you know. I think because we were in an airport for so long and
So
sitting next to each other.
Was that the first time you guys sort of?
No, I've known,
I
knew him for years. I knew him for years, yeah.
Wow.
But actually on his death, on his passing, I got asked by another composer to play a memorial that Universal were doing. And you know the last post that is played sometimes on the military services. It's like an in memoriam. So the brief was like, "Can you play that? But just at the end, just do a little, little Jude, like, you know." So I know all of Hugh's sort of little, things that he did. So I played this, and I went into and then it's finished, and then it just said, Hambagashli Brahu. And that was the commercial. Oh, it wasn't a commercial. It was, it was a thing that Universal did. And that was very special. That was a very emotional session, actually, because I knew him.
Yeah.
And that went on to win some awards. Can you believe it?
Yeah. Sure.
But so many memories, and all through the power of music.
Yeah.
All of my life has been through the language of music and where it's taken me,
Yeah.
I've worked hard at it. I've hustled.
Yeah.
There's been lots of highs and lots of lows. But I think if it's a passion and you can make it your business, and every now and again you can change someone's life, then I think that's great.
This is it.
Yeah.
So from where you're sitting right now, as someone obviously who's so Kwaito at its infancy stage, and to its prominence, to its sort of, let's say, demise, for a little bit of it. Home came.
Now it's coming back now because it's now vintage,
Of course.
Gom
came, Bacardi from Pretoria also took over at some point. Now we have Amapiano, and within Amapiano we're starting to have sort of different variations. We find private school and all this. Where do you think you're going? If you were to sort of,
Yeah. See, all of these genres that you just mentioned now, I mean, it's dance music. It's EDM. I mean, like if you had to package something together, it's called electronic dance music. So it's in the EDM genre, and you've got so many subgenres, and this, I love the way that the dance music has morphed in this country, So Amapiano will morph into the next language of South Africa's youth, South Africa's composers and producers, but Amapiano is a worldwide sound. It's intelligent dance music. It's just like it's thought out, and I think it's got a long journey to go, and it will morph into
something else.
I mean, Kabza, Black Coffee, Maphorisa, the world leaders in that genre, and that's why they get asked to go to London and play for 10,000 people. Or do, the Amapiano Fest in Paris, And that's what we do as musicians, I mean, I think a lot of French producers have actually loved that sound, And if you think about it, French music is jazzy house music, so, but it's, we've got a very strong music language in Amapiano.
Yeah. But then now there's obviously the politics of music. But the politics of Amapiano, if I have to put it that way, whereby now there's certain, I say, quotas, of young people who are in this space that feel like it needs to be protected, and it's a South African thing.
No, that's what I got on TikTok. He said, "Hey, what are these white guys taking them? What is it? They took our land and now they're taking our music." But
obviously,
see, that's the dark side of TikTok.
Absolutely. Then there's the battle, between the southern, the country at the southern tip of the continent and West African, about sort of the ownership of the genre and the music.
Yeah.
But in your experience, I mean, you've lived, you're born in the UK and you've been around the world.
Yeah.
And you've experienced music in different forms and in different locations. Can music be protected
No.
and be
I mean,
sort of.
I mean, like a musical ID, it can be, so it's called copyright. But
Like for us to own and then like
it's a bit of a silly discussion for musicians to be speaking like that because we all get inspired from somebody, like a solo or a sound of Ghana or So I think it's just a little bit of sort of media sort of trying to take over the media a little bit and use it for. I mean, like there's always that fighting in hip hop and stuff like that. I think it's just part of especially being famous and all that sort of thing.
Got you.
I think it's just people plan that, go then.
Yeah, but Howard, I mean, Adam Howard, 2 names. I know a gentleman by the name of Howard. With Sonic branding, as you sum it up, and again casting our eyes into the future, it's not going anywhere in your view.
Well, no.
What shape it'll take in the future?
It'll just morph with the different sounds of that, time,
Yeah.
But I think the fact stays that, if a brand really wants to amplify as much as possible, then you do need to have a sonic branding aspect to that, I would say. Even if that's just producing a radio commercial. I mean, sonic branding isn't just, a mnemonic. It's how does your brand sound? I mean, there's lots of successful brands that don't have a mnemonic, but people, COVID nearly killed the live entertainment. We thought as musicians that we would never go back to playing on a stage because people will just want to watch things on live, streaming. I've really been busier playing music festivals and playing gigs. People want to experience things. They want to experience live music, and that is the power of music and the power of audio. And it's going to be a part of branding forever.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. It wouldn't be the Pattern Brands podcast if we don't play the brutal Pattern Brands Queens.
Ooh.
Let's test your knowledge.
Okay.
How well do you know your brands? Let's see if you are on the pulse,
Mm-hmm.
with brands. Let's see. We'll start off with the musical one. Let's see if you are, within with the culture, as they say.
Come on then.
Yeah. Which brand worked with energy drink brand? Worked with Maphorisa. I'll give you 3 options. And
go ahead. I think I know.
Do you want to shoot straight or you want me to give you the options?
Give me the options.
So if you get it right, you get a pat. If you get it wrong, you get a slap.
Yeah, the 3 brands are?
The 3 brands are, is it Red Bull? Is it Monster? / Play? Or is it More Fire?
Ooh. I think it's More Fire.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Why?
Because I think I know, and I think I've seen it branding wise.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Actually, Maphorisa, I think they had a 2-year deal with the Monster.
With the Monster, did they?
Monster Energy, yeah.
They didn't have a mnemonic though. That's why it didn't stick out.
Exactly.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Which artist has a shoe line with Steve Maiden? Local South African artist. Still in Namapiano space.
Isn't that? Ooh.
Okay, you shooting straight?
Kabza the Small.
Steve Maiden and Kabza the Small.
No. See, these are not audio branding questions.
Yeah, because it's gonna be obvious. That's gonna.
Come on, let's see if I can get the hat trick.
Okay, so 2 down, 3 more to go. Hopefully, you can score the hat trick.
3 wrong.
Let's see. You've got what? You got 2 wrong.
I've got 2 wrong.
Yeah,
2 out of 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Just trying to find me an easy one now.
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, because now I have to go through the archives. Yeah, you know, which local soapy, let's say, had this audio as a
Which audio? That was oh God! It wasn't Generations. It wasn't. Oh, you're gonna have to remind me now. I should have known that one. I'm gonna kick myself now.
1, 2. You're smiling in the car.
Come on.
I'm just joking. Asking the audio guy about an audio festival.
You said let's make it easy, you know.
I don't watch soapies, but yeah. I was oh God, yeah, you're gonna have to remind me now. It's one of those soapies I used to, I think, watch from time to time.
I want to give it to 1, 2
Go on.
because he smiled. He's like, I remember this.
If you give me 3 options, I'll get one of them definitely.
Yeah, let's go to the options.
Okay, option.
Generations, is it Dingo or 71?
One is in the line. I don't think it was Generations, so it must have been Isidingo. Was it Generations?
I think it was Dingo.
Yes. Okay, you can edit the other 2 out, and you can see I get 1 out of 1.
You work a lot with brands, right?
Yes.
Who's the current CMO of Telkom?
I haven't got a clue. I don't know who. I don't know these marketing questions. That who some excos.
I mean, these are clients.
Yeah. And we're talking about Celsius, are we?
I'm putting in.
I haven't got a clue who these.
Let me give you options.
Oh,
Mandy Mina. Kinsani Nobanda. Mandy Mina. What happened to my options?
yeah, I think it's Mandy.
No. Let me finish. Kinsani Nobanda or Kukum Tembu.
Oh, Gugun Tembu. I haven't got a clue, mate. I'm a very honest guy. I do not know. I don't even.
But you said Kukum Tembu.
Yeah.
Because I had to look for the name.
I'm good.
last
I'm just.
Yeah, give it away like that.
Yeah. He's like.
Yeah, that's a shit.
Yeah. Great person.
Do you know her?
No. Sorry, Google.
Oh my goodness.
If you want a mnemonic writing, I can definitely do that for you.
Yeah, no. Really Telkom will be, your next one. Which one of these brands is not under the Tiger Brands stable?
Okay. I've worked with Tiger Brand, so I might have a good idea of this one.
Okay, cool.
Who? That's definitely in the stable.
Eaton Sweets. X.
Axe is not in the stable.
Which stable is it under?
Unilever. Probably Tiger Brand's owns. No, I think it's Unilever, isn't it? Axe.
You get a pass.
I've wrote jingles for them, so that's why I know.
Unilever. Oh,
Axe and yeah, I mean, I wrote.
so it's got itself a hat trick, huh?
Did I get myself a hat trick?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, I've written Koo Baked Beans commercials before, so yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Mama Koo.
Oh, wow.
I was part of Mama Koo for years and years and years. Yeah, I wrote all the music and did all the mixing for that.
Amazing. And you worked with.
I even met Mama Koo.
Wow. I think it was
Black Pepper Pig. It's real.
I'm a great fan. Tembi.
Yes,
She was there. I
Tembi,
think
yeah.
the brand manager there.
Actually, you could have asked me that question. I know Tembi. Yeah, I know her very well. She's her son's musical as well, so I've been giving her some advice on.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I know Tembi very well. Yeah,
And now she's at SAT.
that's right. Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
Small world.
Small world.
Tembi.
Yeah, 4 out of 4.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, you're a great sport. Howard.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me for us. And
Yeah.
us, giving our viewers a different, I'll say, setting.
Great.
And to experience our podcast in a really unique and special way.
A little bit different.
And I think for us, it's 1, 2, is it the career highlight? Yeah, I'm saying
I paid him to say that.
yeah.
But thank you so much. I've enjoyed it as well, Pat.
Great
We're
stuff.
talking about music and brands and yeah.
And how can people get a hold of you? There's someone watching there and say, hey, I want to chat more, because I'm pretty sure after this, people are going to start calling you and say they want you to be a guest on their podcast.
Well, of course, you can go to my website, howardaudio.co.za. I'm on YouTube. You can check all my work out there. I'll pop up on social media. But I think, if you go to my website, you can see my work and all my contact details are there. And you can check out my latest work.
Awesome stuff. Parting shot. Look into that camera.
Mm-hmm.
And give one advice to a young Adam.
To a young Adam or somebody that wants to Yeah. I would say it sounds like a cliche, but if music or audio is your passion, then you just follow that and you practice the craft and you never give up and you never let anybody tell you that maybe it's not the right career for you, because we've only got one life and we have to follow our own passion. So I would say just keep knocking on doors, keep practicing your craft, and believe that anything is possible. A cliche again, but it really is the truth.
It is. On the last part, believe anything is possible. I'm going to say, the secret ingredient that entrepreneurs have, in building businesses and just, pursuing their dreams, is that undying belief that one day things will work out.
Mm. Yeah.
Most successful entrepreneurs have that in them.
Yeah. And I think as a musician, I mean, it's very difficult not to follow that passion, it's because, it's in all of us, so yeah, passion first and then everything else follows.
Absolutely. All right. We own the masters of this podcast.
I can license the recording too for a year.
Special shout out to 1-2 on the production side and making this thing happen. And of course, Lera, the agency, an agency that crafts brands that people love. From me, Pat Mahlangu, ina khailale. You know what that means?
Until next time.
No.
Sabonana.
It says, let there be peace.
Good
down there,
Thank you. Cheers, mate. Thank you so much.
Pat. It's Pat on brands. Watch how you branded, man. A pat on the back is a pat from the man. Better be branded, man. A pat from the pat is a pat on the brand.